Welcome to the podcast. I'm Bill Brio. My guest this episode is a true TV pioneer. He started in TV in the 1950s, and then in the 60s, when I was old enough to watch TV, he hosted one of my favorite kids' shows, Rocketship 7, and that was out of WKBW TV in Buffalo, New York. There he did that series for 16 seasons. He did it 5 days a week, 3 hours a day. He did everything else at WKBW. Is the weatherman. He co-hosted Dialing for Dollars. He did live ads. He did all that. And then in 1978, he moved to Philadelphia. And for 31 years, he did it all over again there. He was the weatherman again. He was known as Dave Roberts in Philadelphia. And he co-hosted their morning show, AM Philadelphia. So, you know, we've known him as Dave Thomas, known him as Dave Roberts. I'm so happy that I've gotten to know him as his real name, David Boreanaz, Sr. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here he is. So, David, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, it's very, very exciting to be here. I'm glad that I'm capable of being here. I should, right at the top, Bill, say anything that I say must be touched by old age and a lack of memory. And it hopefully will be as I remembered it, and hopefully as truthful as possible. So that's kind of a disclaimer, I guess. I'm going to try and remember this stuff as much as I can. If anybody questions it, so be it.
I don't think anybody's going to come at you for fake news here, David. We're good, and we've spoken several times in the last few weeks and months. Your memory is fantastic, so I really appreciate you taking this time. Do you mind me asking your age? Maybe we'll get that one out of the way.
Right. In a couple of months, I'm going to be 90 years old.
Oh, my goodness, David. Congratulations. That's fantastic.
My wife and I are both the same age. Actually, she's a month older than I am.
Patty,
so for 1 month, my wife, Patty, and I, it's very exciting for me to live with an older woman for a month.
Well, not both of you. Listen, congrats. The reason I say congrats is you don't look it at all.
In regards to that, too, this coming August, we'll be married 64 years coming August.
That is quite a fantastic achievement.
Yeah, we're truly blessed. All right, we got the age, we got all that stuff out of the way.
Listen, yep. I want to thank, first of all, your son, David Boreanaz. Folks, of course, will know him from several TV shows, SEAL Team, Bones, Buffy. We reached out to him through another mutual friend, Hart Hansen, the producer of Bones, to reach you in Pennsylvania. So thank you so much to your son, David, and to our buddy Hart.
Right, definitely to both of them. And don't forget Angel. You got to toss the show Angel in there, too.
Yeah, absolutely. He was the star of Angel. Yeah, man, oh, man. That's pretty impressive. You must be very proud. It's rare for anyone to have headlined 3-4 TV shows. So that's, Michael Landon, I think, is the only other one that comes to mind right now. So pretty impressive, right?
It is, definitely. I was thinking the last time that I saw you, contrary to our connecting now, was years ago at some event with Hart and David for one of the shows.
You're right. Yeah. I'll quickly tell that story because it's a beauty. As a TV reporter, I would go down to Los Angeles for the Television Critics Association press tours. Right. And on one of these tours where Fox was the host, I think Bones was one of the shows being featured. And I saw David, your son, and I walked over and introduced myself. And I said, listen, I read somewhere, correct me if I'm wrong, but is your dad Dave Thomas from Rocketship 7? And David looked at me like I was 7 years old, and I probably looked like I was 7. And he said, yes, that's my dad. Yeah. And I was just there with my jaw on the ground. 6 months later, at the next press tour, I'm at the Fox party. All the kids are there from Glee and the American Idol hosts. And David comes up to me and says, listen, I got somebody I'd like you to meet. And it's you over in the corner. And I'm pushing the kids from Glee out of my way. Like, I am so happy to meet you and talk about Rocketship 7. So that was a fun moment for sure. So thank you for that one. And we spoke earlier, about a week or so ago, about how your family got its first TV set, which is a really interesting story. Why don't we'll run that clip now and show that and come back.
There was a radio station in Buffalo that was running some kind of a contest. If you knew the answer to something, you would win this TV. It was they promoted it for weeks and so forth. And I wasn't aware of any of that. Apparently my brother was. And he wrote down whatever the answer was supposed to be or what he thought it was. So we're both at school. And this fellow from the radio station just came into the neighborhood, and he's going up knocking on doors saying, do you listen? I think it was WKBW. So the fellow came to the door, and my mother answered, and she said, no, I don't know anything. And he went on to going through other neighbors. And she happened to see this piece of paper or something that my brother had left with the words on it. Mm-hmm. So she went back to the door, and as the fellow was leaving, she called him back and said, is it such and such? And he was stunned, and he said, yes, that's it. You're the winner. You
wow.
You won a TV set. And then a few days later, they delivered this set. It was a 7-inch Admiral set.
Wow.
That was like huge. So we got the TV set, and everybody in the neighborhood was excited. And so neighbors come in, and we turn it on. And the only thing that comes up is this test pattern. Yeah, with that terrible noise. And what's the big excitement? There's nothing. You have to wait. At 4:00, it's going to begin. And the first thing I saw on television was the Howdy Doody show.
Wow.
With the Buffalo Bob.
Amazing.
Buffalo Bob Smith with Clarabelle the clown. And
yeah.
So we all sat there and watched it. And when it was over with, then it went back to the test pattern. that was it. That was the only programming that came from.
When did WBEN begin?
They were in the 40s. There was just the one TV station.
Wow.
The Buffalo Evening News owned it, and that was it. They dominated somewhere.
There were no stations in Canada till late 52.
Yeah.
And so we Canadians watched Buffalo if you had a set. And tell me this, you can answer this one. WKBW, does that really stand for Well-Known Bible Witness?
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah, Dr. Clinton Churchill. Yeah, he had this for a number of years.
Pretty ironic, isn't it? Just that the first thing you saw on a television set at your house was a children's show.
Definitely.
Was Buffalo Bob Smith then kind of the blueprint for you, or someone of?
No, I had no ideas of different types of programming, and I had no idea or desire to do a children's show. That never entered my mind.
More with David Boreanaz Sr. after this. Okay, so we all know that there's a mountain of entertainment on Paramount Plus, but what's on top of the mountain this month? Well, the big news is that Billy Bob Thornton returns as oil-soaked rig fixer Tommy Norris in Season 2 of Landman. The 10 new episodes features Demi Moore as Norris's new lady boss and Sam Elliott as his daddy pops. Besides more Landman, this December kicks off with a bang as Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning lands on the platform, along with every other Mission Impossible film in the entire series. Paramount Plus is also bringing plenty of seasonal favorites, including Scrooged, Rock and Roll Christmas, Double Holiday, and Mistletoe and Menorahs. And don't forget about Pluto TV. They'll be streaming holiday favorites all month long, including seasonal episodes of TV shows such as South Park and Cheers. And unlike everything else about the holidays, everything on Pluto TV is completely free. And we're back with David. After graduating from Syracuse University, Dave began his broadcasting career at WAER-FM in Syracuse. By 1956, he was back in Buffalo, landing an announcing job at WBUF. By 1958, he was in the Army, where he served with the Armed Forces Radio Network in both New York City and in the Panama Canal Zone. And that's where he came face to face, not with the enemy, but with cowboys, comedians, and Broadway stars.
But the experience there was amazing because all these different celebrities that came in always did something for Armed Forces Radio. Sitting there one day and Helen Hayes walks in. Got to meet her. We covered the premiere of The Diary of Anne Frank and Ed Wynn.
Oh, the perfect fool.
All these celebrities came in, and I'm standing there with a microphone off the side as they come in, trying to get them to say something. And they were very kind because when they saw Armed Forces Radio, they did stop, and say a few words to us, and then we'd tape it all together and make a show. One person that I love was Gabby Hayes. You know who Gabby Hayes is?
A Western star, yeah.
Right. They said, well, Gabby Hayes is coming in, Dave, and you're in charge of him. You got to get him to do some PSA now for the Red Cross or something. He comes in. He had driven across country with his wife to see the Yankees play. He was a big New York Yankees fan. And he sits down, and they gave him the copy to read and so forth. So I went in the control room, and he starts to read the copy. There's Gabby Hayes, USO, and he does this whole thing. And he keeps stumbling. These were 20-second spots. So I went into the studio, and I said, well, we're going to change the copy a little bit. We'll do this. I tried to take out some words I thought he was having a problem with. He says, all right. He says, I'll get it this time. And he reaches in and he takes his teeth out. And he puts his teeth down like this. He says, I'm ready. I'm ready. And we went in and he did 3 takes in a row. Perfect. He got up, put his teeth back in, and he and his wife, hand in hand, said, thanks a lot, kid. And he walked out.
Well, after his Army stint ended, Boreanaz found himself back in Buffalo, newly married. He quickly landed a job as a weatherman at Buffalo's WKBW. His first impressions of the station, however, made him think maybe he'd made a mistake.
They just cleaned house on a Sunday night. In other words, they came in and said, with security, and said, you're done. Clean out your desk and go.
Wow, they just frog marched them out of the building.
That was it. And then Monday morning, this young kid shows up, and that's me. So I said, I realized that. I said, oh, my God, this is terrible. What kind of people am I working for? What did I get myself into? Do you remember Rick Azar?
Absolutely. Rick Azar was the sports guy, part of the 3. Weinstein, and fantastic.
Well, Rick, he was doing Azar's Attic in Niagara Falls, New York, a radio show. And they hired him to come to BUF to do some sports. So when they went out of business there, Rick went on and they hired him at WKBW. Matter of fact, Rick signed that station on the air. So that's part of the history. So when I got there, they rearranged things. And the next thing I know, they announced a new team. Rick Azar did the news and sports, and Dave Thomas did the weather. That was the new news team.
And I'm curious, was there a discussion about your name? Was there any discussion about using Boreanaz?
I was told, I think it was at WBUF TV, we couldn't use that name. The name was too long. It was too complicated. It was too ethnic. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, fine. I took my confirmation name. David, my confirmation name was Thomas.
Okay.
So I took my first, Dave Thomas. That's how I did it. So I changed the name. But when I got exposure in TV, there I was, as Dave Thomas. And in my old neighborhood on Summer Street off of Richmond, near Kleinhans Music Hall, we used to go to a cleaners around the corner run by an old Italian, Mr. Mancuso was his name. And I used to always go in there and pick up the clothes and so forth. And I knew his son, and we were friends. Well, I went one day after I had this TV exposure as Dave Thomas, and he wouldn't talk to me. He's like, walked away from me and went, I said, Mr. Mancuso, are you mad at me? Did I do what's the matter? He said, what, are you ashamed of yourself? I said, what are you talking about? He said, you're not Dave Thomas. That's not your name. You're ashamed of your name. You're ashamed of your people, where you came from. He really tore into me. Wow. And I felt so badly for it. And he never spoke to me after that again. He thought it was something terrible. So that's how I ended up with Dave Thomas. We used to do, everything we did in that studio was live. We used to do live commercials for everything.
Wow.
It was so exciting and so dynamic, and just your adrenaline was at high speed. They do the news, and the next thing you know, you're over in a corner doing a commercial for draft brewed flats. You had to be careful. So we'd be pouring a beer, and if you pour too much, the beer would go over and run down your arm. I mean, all these experiences. I remember doing one for Lipton tea. The agency said, yeah, take a sniff of the aroma. I said, yeah. I popped it, and I took a sniff of the aroma, and it got in my nose, and I started coughing. I mean, it was just, all of this stuff was That's just, funny. I mean, it was live. We had car commercials. You had a car commercial there, New York Telephone here, and you do something, you go over there, do that. Somebody else would be doing another commercial. It was the most exciting thing in the world to do. But probably about 6 months before, they had hired this young kid out of Rochester, New York radio. They hired him at WKBW radio. They liked his presentation and his voice. And they said, well, let's bring him in the TV studio and see what he can do. So he came in the TV studio. But this guy stands behind this lectern, and all he could see was the top head of him. He was very short. So they set up the camera shot, and the director's saying, well, you can't do this. We can't even see this guy. So they ran, and they had these old wooden Coke boxes. They used to deliver Coke.
Yep.
So they put this box down, and this guy stands up in the thing, and we can see him. And they auditioned him, and his name was Irv Weinstein.
Irv Weinstein. I could see that coming up Broadway.
And that was the beginning. Then they hired him, and then that's when things changed. Rick did sports exclusively, and then they hired Tom Joles, who was over at WBEN, and they kind of shifted me to the mornings. And that's when I went and auditioned at WMAL in Washington, because things were changing, and I didn't think I had much of a future there. And then I came back to the station and said, I think I'm going to go to Washington. So they said, well, we don't want to lose you, Dave. We have plans for you. I want to do this. And so, well, what are your plans? And one of the things they mentioned was, we have this idea for a kid show that we think we'd like you to do, and so forth. And they gave me a little more money. They induced some inducements for me to stay. And there were other shows, Dialing for Dollars, they were thinking of. Then there was a money movie show that eventually came. That was the beginning, the inchoate stages, as I love to say, of Rocketship 7. There was a guy by the name of Bill Wagner who had worked for a station in Houston, and somehow they hired him here at WKBW TV. One of his ideas was, they had this robot down in Houston that they used to use for some promotional thing or something. And his idea was that we should do something based on space, because space was just starting. Wally Schirra and those early space guys and so forth. I even went to Canaveral and covered one of those shots.
John Glenn.
There's another whole story. Anyway, so this was the idea. Well, I said, well, Bell Aerosystems is right here. So, I mean, if you want to do something like that, it should be authentic. So it was a germ of an idea. So we went out to Bell Aerosystems, and they had a mock-up capsule there that you could get in, and the thing would turn like this. So we sat and talked about it and said, we should try to simulate like the inside of this space vehicle or whatever it is. There was a fellow by the name of Fred Grenoff who recently passed away at age 96. He was the main guy that built props and sets. And they'd never been able to use wood in building a set. It was always cardboard. They would paint it, and the cheapest thing possible. Wood was too expensive. So they allowed them to use wood for the first time. So they built this big console that we used to have in the front, and then he built the set in the back that was all wood, and they put it on wheels. They started to build this whole thing, and it became very, very exciting. I went out to Bell and went through a little bit of training with them.
When you say training, I mean,
well, you went out and you worked in this little space capsule where you got in, you would press it, and you would go like this, to give you a feeling for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Then they had engineers that had designs what capsules were going to look like. The initial thing was going to be very, very technical, and I kind of immersed myself in that, figuring out, well, I should learn this. But at the same time, in my mind, I was more fantasizing in terms of fun with this thing too. So we ended up building this set and so forth. And then they shipped this robot up from Houston. This
really
big thing arrived. So we fixed it up. He had an antenna on top, the original one, that you had to put batteries in, because if you hit him in the front, then the antenna would go around. It would be like, there would be noise. So we had fun with that. And then they added some lights on the front. So when we dimmed the lights, and if he walked in, the lights would be flashing, his antenna would be going, all things to generate, excitement. Wow, look at this, a robot. It's moving. It's actually, is it going to talk? Yes, it's going to talk. All that stuff was happening.
And it came up from Houston. Was it already known as Promo the Robot?
No, it was just something they used as a promotion down there. So they fixed it up and added a lot of stuff to it, and cleaned it up and sprayed it and so forth, and had these big epaulets on the side, and there were legs that were separate, so you had to put the legs on and then lift this over the poor guy that was inside. So we did all of those things, and they say, well, what do we name this thing? So they had just hired another new guy who came in to run the promotion department. So his brilliant idea was, well, we're promoting this, and it's a promotion. Why don't we call it Promo?
Amazing. That's fantastic.
And everybody kind of looked like, really? And at that point, we wanted to keep the thing moving. So we said, okay, fine. What's in a name, right?
Why
in a
not?
name? So he became Promo, and then
who was the poor guy inside?
It was too tough of a job to get in there. You had to be in early in the morning, get in the suit, get out of the suit. So finally, after I think we went through 5 or 6 people, things not working out, we were on the air. It was just robot would come in and turn around and walk out. It wasn't saying much or anything. We got to get, we have to get this thing. We have to get this thing going. And then you remember Dialing for Dollars?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Well, Johnny Banizak, they would be in there live, getting ready to do it at 9 o'clock, because we went from 6 in the morning until 9 in the morning. And then we followed it live with Dialing for Dollars. Johnny would be there with Jimmy. They provided the music. Johnny said, well, I'm coming in anyway. Well, I'd like to try it. I said, great, John, fine. So we put the suit on, and John was he was the salt of the earth. What a nice guy. It worked out perfectly, and he was Promo for the rest of the run. He was
amazing.
Great.
David will rocket right back after this. Christmas arrives in style this season on Super Channel, Heart and Home. What have they got? Well, the Super Channel original series, Crossroad Springs, premieres December 24th. Dynamic duo Candace Cameron Bure and Cameron Matheson star in another sweet Christmas only on Super Channel starting December 19th. This year's holiday lineup features 8 Canadian premieres starring fan favorites Carson Kressley, Kim Johnson-Herjavec, Melissa Melotti, Paul Green, Daniel Lissing, and many more. The all-Canadian streaming service offers viewers exceptional entertainment value, uncut and commercial-free, with 4 diverse channels: Super Channel Fuse, Heart and Home, Vault, and Quest, plus access where available to Super Channel On Demand. Where can you get it? Well, from most cable providers across the country. So, hang some mistletoe and sign up today. And here he is again, David Boreanaz Sr.
Bill, when we did our first show, the next day, Bill Wagner, who was the program director at the time, the guy that had come from Houston and so forth, he put out a memo, went through everybody, everybody saw it, saying what a terrible job I had done. I don't know the character. You're not playing it right. You did this wrong. You did that wrong. It was so deflating. I thought the first show went okay, considering it was the first show and we were all stumbling.
Right.
But I didn't think we stumbled that bad, but he ripped me a new you-know-what. So, shortly, probably within a year or something, he was gone because they found out he had some other problems and so forth. So he was gone. But gradually by then the show started to change. And I was saying, I wanted it to be more than just cartoons. I mean, anybody can run cartoons from 6 to 9,
right.
Put it in spot. I want some education. So we went to the zoo with Clay Freiheit. I wanted science. We went to the Buffalo Museum of Science and got someone. We had J.J. Carr from Bell Aerosystems who would come in and sketch like capsule or something on a pad associated with space. And then the kids would try to draw it and send it in, and then we would show their drawing. So it started to develop along those lines. Each day we tried to have a segment that was special.
And you were on 5 days a week, and right. From like 6 in
the morning to 9.
My goodness, 3 hours a day times 5.
We filled that. We filled that whole block. Prior to that, there was like Ding Dong School and Miss Francis and all of that stuff, and they got rid of all of that, and they just put us in there, and we flew with it.
What was the one, Romper Room? I remember that.
Romper Room was on too.
Yeah.
Then I think WGR picked it up. I think we had it for a while, and they let it go when they changed everything and put Rocketship 7 in there. Romper Room, I think, went to 2. Yeah.
I remember too, Sherry Lewis and Lamb Chop.
Yeah.
Rocketship 7 had this great, rousing orchestral theme song, this sweet Air Power, I think it was called. And it was just, boy, when they started hitting the cymbals and the timpani, it really got the thing off to a great start. Was it always that theme song on the show?
Yes. What I do remember, though, is getting that film clip where it would start at the base of that rocket, where you see the smoke blasting and this rocket would slowly go up, and the music fit perfectly, I thought, with that. So that whole thing, it's interesting that you should so vividly remember that. Yeah. That was so important at the time, us selecting that. We felt as if this really says something. You're getting ready for excitement. We're lifting off. We're going into space, and boom, come on along for the ride.
Yeah. What I remember too was what you showed, like you had the cartoons, and there was a lot of the Gumby and Davy and Goliath, all those claymation shows that Art Clokey did. That was fascinating as a youngster. It was really cool to see those series. Was there also Popeye cartoons and Bugs Bunny?
Yeah, those were in there. But the Gumby and Pokey things were, it's like an animated stick type thing. And the reason I love that one was that I envisioned kids trying to draw that themselves.
Yeah.
So I thought that was the connection with that cartoon. Davy and Goliath, I just thought it was a nice thought, no matter what your religion or persuasion.
Yeah.
It talked about kindness and certain things. It didn't seem to be real preachy. It just seemed to be easy going. So I like that. I love the Gumby and Pokey. And then, of course, what used to drive me crazy is that the cartoons are basically violence, with the smashing and the Road Runner. And that always bothered me that there was so much of that in there, but they were so popular. And, of course, that was part of the package that the station had to run. So, I mean, I couldn't argue with that. I mean, I could argue, but I wasn't going to win any battles. So I guess.
It was Roger Ramjet. That came later, I guess.
Yeah, Roger Ramjet.
It was a perfect fit for Rocketship 7, right?
Right. Yeah, that was a later one that they picked up.
And also you would show, and I'm sure you had syndication deals with various distributors, but your show and Commander Tom would have like these short films, some of them from the 30s, like Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon, I think, right?
Yeah, they did. I think Tom did most of those in the afternoon. I think he tied them into his show. I don't recall us ever. They had syndication deals where they had to show that, so they put it when Tom went in the afternoon. For a while, Rocketship 7 was on in the afternoon from 4 to 5 too.
Oh wow! Didn't realize that before Commander Tom, I guess.
Yeah, it was. We were doing the morning, then we were doing the 4 to 5 thing, and it was just
all of it live.
It was overkill. It was too much. It didn't feel right. And I was never happy with it. And it did all right, I guess.
Yeah.
But then they changed the whole thing. And then that's when Tom went into that spot and became, very successful in his own right.
I think that his show also, maybe yours too, showed The Adventures of Superman.
That was Tom, yeah.
Okay, all right. But
we didn't get into any of that stuff. Those were all that syndicated stuff that they had purchased. One
thing that killed me is that I guess they had these syndication deals, so they had to burn off certain shows. There was a Western with Wild Bill Hickok. And then I guess they got to the bottom of the barrel and they started showing Broderick Crawford's Highway Patrol, which as a little kid, you're thinking, wait a minute, this is the show Mommy and Daddy watches. What is this doing here?
They had the package too, the Laurel and Hardy thing.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
You remember Laurel and Hardy? They did something with that too. Yeah, they would obviously capital cities took over. They were masters at getting these deals, buying up, the syndications right to this and this at minimal cost, I guess, because no one was watching those shows anymore, and they turned it into a money machine. I mean, they just loaded it with commercials.
Probably the Little Rascals, too, and things. But,
the Little Rascals, right.
More with David Boreanaz Sr. after this. Well, time once again to check in with Emily Gagne at Hollywood Suite. Emily, it's the most wonderful time of the year. Look at you.
I know. I had to put my Santa hat on because we have lots of festive favorites on Hollywood Suite this month.
Festive favorites. Usually you guys zig when everyone else zags. So what does that mean? What kind of festive favorites do you have?
We have a lot of modern festive favorites, like something like The Holiday, which is like one of our number one movies every year. People love it. But like The Family Stone, which has the late, great Diane Keaton in it. Or, my personal favorite, the Jim Carrey version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
You like that one the best?
I don't know if it's the best, but I like it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I'm waiting for the family Sly Stone Christmas. I think that would be awesome.
I would definitely watch that, and I would push for us to get it on Hollywood Suite for sure.
Okay, great. What else do you have? Anything else you want to you want to promote for December?
I think we've got a lot of cozy comfort movies like Mamma Mia or Field of Dreams, just movies that you love to watch when you're home with your family and just, want to have a night in. So whether you're celebrating or just keeping it easy, we got something for you.
All right. Well, it sounds perfect. Emily, you have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you in the new year.
Happy New Year, Bill.
Take care. And we're back with David.
I'm there at WKBW maybe 2 years, and Doc Churchill sells the TV and the radio station to this group called Capital Cities. They paid more for the radio station than they did for the TV station.
Wow.
I mean, talk about getting a bargain and smart people. But Capital Cities was struggling in the early days. They had the station in Albany, and they had this young guy there who was doing like a similar type of light show. He would tell jokes, and he went in and asked for a raise, and they turned him down. So he got up and he quit, and he went to California, went to Los Angeles, and his name was Ted Knight.
Oh, no, really? From the Mary Tyler Moore Show?
Right. So
my goodness.
Years later, when I'm doing AM Philadelphia, he was one of my guests. And he came on, and we were laughing about Capital Cities. He said, those cheap, they were giving me a raise. I only wanted $10 more. He says, it turns out it'd be the biggest favor. And he was, but that's how all of that stuff.
The nerve of those guys firing Ted Baxter. That's not right. I'm curious about the puppets on the show, because I'm sure you didn't see yourself as a puppeteer, but I remember Mr. Beeper. There was creatures like that. How did that go? Did you just have to learn them? Did you make any of the puppets? Tell me a bit about the puppeteering.
Yeah, I'd never done any puppets. Had no interest in puppets whatsoever. So they figured we had to, get this some kind of a spacey type character. I was looking around for puppets, and I went into this one place, and I found this like little green thing. There wasn't much to it, but I remember putting my hand in it, and I said, well, this might work, but we have to figure it out some more. When I brought it back, I gave it to this Fred Granoff, the guy that built the set, and we put little wires on the head to look like little antennas, and at the top we put a little wooden ball. But I can remember the first time I did the puppet, I had no idea in my mind what the voice was going to be like. I mean, I knew I had to have a voice, but I hadn't rehearsed. I hadn't tried anything. I just stuck my hand out there, and this falsetto voice came out, which really surprised me myself. And I can remember the guys in the crew, everybody was laughing. He's saying, Dave, what happened? Your jockey shorts are too tight, or what? This kind of stuff. We were all laughing, and that voice kind of stayed with it. And I think now it's in that one picture that I sent you. I think it's at the Fisher Toy used to have a
little exhibit, didn't they?
Toy museum down in East Aurora. I think it's still down there, or maybe I may have given it to my son David. I don't know. Wow. I think he asked for it or something.
Can you do a little bit of Mr. Beeper for us now?
No.
No, you won't, or you just can't?
I can, but I won't. That's interesting with that. People ask me that for years, especially when the show was popular. Even my kids asked me that.
Wow.
And I said, no, I will never do that outside of the content of the show. Why I'm stuck in that mindset, I don't know, but it just feels right. Oh,
you were so busy working 3 hours every morning on the show. Even just how did you change into a suit and get over to Dialing for Dollars live?
We had to do it quick, or sometimes I was same for Johnny too. Johnny had to get out of that.
Yeah,
get ready for the music. And when tape came in, we were able to tape a quick close, so that we had maybe 6-8 minutes at most to change. The same time, while we were finishing Rocketship 7, the audience would be quietly coming in because we had just one big studio for Dialing for Dollars. So there's a whole big challenge there and just getting it done.
It was the same studio as Rocketship 7.
Right. We do Rocketship 7, then we do Dialing for Dollars, and then you'd have to turn it around. And I used to do the noon weather, and then they put the Money movie on, which was in the afternoon, I think, maybe 1 to 2.
Wow.
So, it kept moving, and then we would go outside to do the weather in the parking lot.
Was this the temple building that the original...
Yeah, that's where he used to hold church services.
Wow.
And then the radio station was in the back. It was a little parking area. Radio station was in the back. We did so many live shows there. You remember Evel Knievel?
Yes.
I did a show there with Evel Knievel on it.
Really? Yes. Did he jump over promo or what?
Well, no, I tell you, we had him on Dialing for Dollars, and he had his motorcycle back in the driveway, right? And I talked to him, and so he wanted to take a trial run. So he got on the motorcycle, and he went zooming out of this driveway, did like a wheelie type thing. Something went wrong, and he shoots out into Main Street, and he hits the back end of this car.
Oh, no.
And the car spins around, the motorcycle goes up in the air, and so does Evel when he comes down on the ground.
Oh, my God.
I thought he had killed himself, Bill.
Jeez.
I said, I don't believe this. And we're right next door to the police station, fire station. So they all came. He was on the ground. An ambulance came, and he wouldn't get in the ambulance. So we got him into the front of the station, and he wanted to go on and do the show. He wanted to talk. And I said to my boss, I don't want to be on the air with him. This guy is liable to have a heart attack and die. He should go to the hospital. So I said, no, I don't want him. I'm not going to do him. And they finally convinced him to go to the hospital. And he had a big show scheduled for the weekend, which they canceled, right? He was in the hospital for a couple of days and then left town to recuperate. But then the story came out. I saw a story in the newspaper. It said that they canceled the show because some driver in a car, an old couple, had run into his motorcycle. They turned the story around to cover the fact that he had done something so foolish and not right. That's one of the things that went on in this little space. And when I drive by and it's deserted, I say, the ghosts to the west, they live here. Evel Knievel lives there, among other people.
Well, they should have known not to have evil in the house of the well-known Bible witness. That's what happened.
Exactly.
There.
See, there's that thread again. You're good at that. You're good at that, though.
My thanks to David Boreanaz for sharing so many wonderful memories of Rocketship 7 and other adventures in television back in the 60s and 70s at WKBW in Buffalo, New York. There were many other stories we didn't get to this episode. We'll have to do another one. We didn't talk about the $10,000 Dave helped raise in the 60s from donations from viewers to bring 2 baby snow leopards to the Buffalo Zoo. We didn't also talk about Dave's work with Jerry Lewis and the annual Labor Day telethon in combating muscular dystrophy, or his post-WKBW career in Philadelphia as a talk show host and TV weatherman. Known as Dave Roberts during 3 decades on the air in Philly at WPVI, he interviewed everybody from the Fonz Henry Winkler to Tiny Tim and even Colonel Sanders, and also stars such as Bob Hope and William Shatner. Dave also had cherished memories of crossing the border into Canada on frequent visits to Sick Children's Hospital in Toronto. The guys at the border crossing in Fort Erie always asked Dave, "Where's Promo the robot?" And the answer was folded up and in the trunk of the station wagon. As for all the Canadian fans of Rocketship 7, well, Dave wanted to give that audience a special hello.
I want to make a good shot at the Canadian audience, which was started out small and became huge, well beyond any of my thoughts. And the same with management at the station, when they realized how big that audience was and how effective they were with their commercials and then live commercials that we used to do for the kids.
Yeah.
Charlie Chalks and Slinky and all that stuff. And my early days in Canada with Saga Beach, Georgian Bay. Yeah, there's a lot. I want to get that in because that audience was so important to us, and I'm still appreciative of it.
We all watched all the time. It was important and very entertaining. And you stood out for sure in that landscape, which I cherish, all of those memories. Finally, I spoke with Boreanaz about the missing part of this blast from the past, and that's any clips from Rocketship 7. The sad truth is that almost nothing remains from that 16-year stint on the series. Incredible, really. Every weekday, 16 years. It's all gone because the tapes were seen as more valuable than the content. All we have left, apparently, is a short clip from the end of one of the later shows. If anybody out there has more on VHS was just coming in at the end of the 70s, please let me know. We'd love to see more. But here is that clip, pretty much all that's left. And you don't even see Dave on it, but you do get a chance to see a little bit of promo as the credits roll. Take a look.
So until Monday morning, this is your old buddy Promo saying, have a nice weekend, and I'll be seeing you.
Well, my thanks again to David Boreanaz. It's been such a pleasure getting to know him and his wife, Patty, over Zoom, at least, these past few months. Something I will absolutely treasure. And I want to thank his son, David Boreanaz, for helping to set this up, being instrumental there, as well as our mutual friend, Hart Hansen, executive producer of Bones and other shows, author, and just a real good guy. Thank you, Hart, for coming through on this one as well. And also, as always, I want to thank my producer, Phil Hung. I don't think we'll be doing this for 16 years, Phil, but damn it, you're doing a great job. Thank you again. And also kudos to Paul Boudra and BJ Del Conte and Stephen Dudley, folks who provide the music that you hear on this podcast. And as always, thank you, viewer. Listen, if you like what you heard and saw, please spread the word. I'm Bill Brio. Thanks for watching.